So I'm going to go through how do we use LinkedIn Recruiter effectively to source candidates. I'm going to cover creating InMail templates, creating projects, assigning candidate statuses within the projects, generally what my workflow looks like, so how I get from search results to narrowing that down to putting candidates into a project to sending them an InMail message. Um, Also, I will show you how to view your recruiter statistics if that is something you are interested in. Um, so, I wanted to open up the LinkedIn homepage, um, which I will do now to show you how to get to Recruiter if you're just on regular LinkedIn.com. Um, so, to do that, you'll want to click this button here on the top right called Recruiter. And actually, I have loaded up what will happen next, most likely in this other tab. So we're just going to work from there. So it will bring up this page that says you have seats on multiple contracts. Um, One is the Virginia Premier contract. The other is a uh, job posting. So the LinkedIn offers the opportunity for individuals to purchase a 30-day posting. Um, that's where you would use that to post this job. Um, we are not going to bother with that, and I'm not sure that will ever be an issue, but I do want to point that out in case someone encountered it. It was kind of confusing to me when LinkedIn put it in. I actually had a conversation with their support about it, so that is what that means. So we're going to click continue. So this brings us to the LinkedIn Recruiter homepage. Here you'll see some activity in your projects, recent updates, stuff like that. Um, Interestingly enough, if you are curious and you do not want to have to ask Shelby every time, do we have a job slot open? You can see that right here. See, it says we have 3 job slots remaining. So we actually have the opportunity to post 3 more jobs. Um, so that is something interesting that I wanted to point out on the homepage. And I'll probably add bookmarks to this presentation. So if you want to skip around to certain topics, I will put those in there for you. Um, but I wanted to start by taking you through how to create a project, why projects are important, and what they will allow us to do moving forward. So to start a project, you want to click on the project menu here, and then to create a new one, you want to click this plus sign. That will bring up this screen here. Um, you'll enter the title of your project here. I usually name it by the job title, then a hyphen, and then the location. Um, For the description, usually I leave that blank. You can, if you would like, potentially add the rec number. That might help if we have multiple people working in the same project or working on positions that are very similar. Um, Moving forward, I think we'll want to click the yes radio button for share this project. That way other people can see your project. They can have it as a point of reference. They can go back to candidates that you contacted in the past and contact them for new opportunities. So we're going to want to leave that checked as yes. I'm going to cancel this because I actually have already created a project previously um, for this purpose. So we're going to go to get to it, we're going to go to projects. And then the one that I have is called sample projects right here. We're going to click on that. That brings us to the project page. So these top bars here are called spotlights. It shows basically these are candidate statuses. That's how you organize candidates within a project. So it will show all of the candidates in the project. New is candidates with the status of new. Contacted is ones that you've assigned the contacted status, and replied is the ones that you've assigned the replied status. Here you can see the more details section of the statuses for candidates, all future prospects, screened, applied, so on and so forth. We'll walk through how to assign statuses here in just a moment. Something I wanted to show you on this screen is this gear icon. We're going to click it. It's the project settings. Um, this allows you to change the owner, add a description, link job posts, manage saved searches, add a file, and add a link. Um, look at some stats, and then also look at candidates in a holistic list view. Um, for description, that's the same thing you would do when you were creating the project. So we kind of talked about that already. Here under job posts, you can actually link to a job post that we have posted on LinkedIn. Um, so if you click that, it brings up this screen where you can select the job posting that you would like to link to the project, and then that way you can see what that looked like when you come back in the future. Managing saved searches is probably the most important thing under this project settings gear. It allows you to save search strings to the project. So uh, you could potentially save the recruiter behind you a lot of time by already having identified really good search strings, um, and saving those to the project. We'll walk through that in just a moment, and I will come back and I'll add a bookmark here just so that we know, or you know where to skip forward to if that's what you're looking for. You can add a file. That's typically where I'll add the job description if I have it. A link. You could add a link to a helpful membership organization, for example. Something the hiring manager said would be a good place to look. Something like that. The statistics button, I haven't used a lot, so we'll go over that together. It looks like you can look at people with activity, see if someone's touched the project recently, how many people are there, so on and so forth. So we're gonna close out of that. The list view option gives you an opportunity to look through candidate profiles in a holistic view. That's a good one to take through if you're working closely with showing other recruiters or hiring managers candidates from the project. Um, so that's the project settings tab. This will allow us to have a good starting spot. Um, if you're working on a position that we filled before, it's more than likely you can come back to the project and see what were their search strings, what um, what path did they take to find the successful candidates that they found? Are there candidates in here that maybe I could reach out to that haven't been touched in a while? Maybe they're interested now. And hopefully the candidates will have notes attached with them. We'll go through that as well. But that gives us a really good spot to kind of come back to, refer to in the future. Also gives us a chance to stay organized and be more collaborative with other recruiters if you're working together. If you're working with me on a position, this will give us a spot to say, here's what we've done so far from a LinkedIn perspective. So that's a good spot. So I want to kind of transition. I'm going to go back to the home page, and I want to transition into um, the search criteria. How do we take candidates from a search into a project and assign them a status? So, um, just a really quick overview. Hopefully, this is high level enough and we don't get stuck in the weeds. But I will always use the advanced function when I search. It gives me more control. A couple of highlights. The location filter, you'll want to be careful with that because it is a conglomeration and it relies on the candidate to accurately locate themselves. Um, some people are very literal with that, so if they live in Moseley, Virginia, they put their location as Moseley, Virginia. Um, that may not get picked up by the Richmond, Virginia area filter. It could, it may not. So sometimes I'll use the zip code filter here under candidate details. That allows you to do a search per zip code with radius. So your more traditional radius search, hopefully that captures, sometimes will capture more candidates than just using the location filter. Another thing that I'll search for is by company size, just to keep it within perspective. Sometimes people are working for small businesses, and that could not hinder their candidacy for certain positions based on the hiring managers or what have you. Um, Also, you can filter out candidates that you have sent messages to previously using this recruiting activity filter. I'll usually do people without messages. You can also hide previously viewed if you're viewing a lot of candidates at once and you don't want to keep seeing the same names over and over. The keyword box is where you'll enter your keywords. This is where your Boolean string searches can get come into handy, or come in handy anyway. So I talked about those in the PowerPoint. You can also filter by industry, by school. Typically, I'll use the industry filter. I'll use the job title filter. The location filter is a good one. Really, the keywords is where I kind of live, if you want to talk about it that way. That's where I spend most of my time fine-tuning my results. I'll use these filters, such as people without messages, to make my searches efficient. So we're going to run a sample search, and I'm going to add some candidates to the sample project so that we can see how that works. So I'm just going to type in some general keywords. You'll see I use a Boolean string, and that's totally up to you, but I feel like it works well. Um, so I'm going to do analyst and SQL, or SSRS, and put that in parentheses so that that gets searched first, and then it will search for analyst. Hopefully that creates profiles that definitely have SQL or SSRS and analyst in it, and not just analyst or just one of the other two keywords. But we're going to hit search and see what happens. And it found 0 candidates because I did not hit enter on the keyword button. So we're going to try that again. Um, all right, so it brought us back over 2 million results. So that is a lot of profiles. So we're going to quickly cut through that. To get to the advanced function, again, it's down here at the bottom on the left. So we're going to click that. And I prefer to do the radius searches just because I feel like it's a little bit more accurate, but that's totally your prerogative. And the results do look different sometimes, so I think it's worth searching both ways. I'm going to cut it down to within 25 miles of Richmond just to see what happens. So I hit enter there, and it cut it down to 5,000. So that's a pretty good place to start. So I'm going to start there. Here you have the spotlights, the total candidates more likely to respond based on their history, open to new opportunities. That is where the candidate is able to go in and say, hey, I want to tell recruiters that I'm looking. So they click a button, it enables that. So that's typically where I'll start just because those candidates are pretty warm. Past applicants is another one. You can also look at this drop down here and see the ones that have engaged with us. So talking through the results, looking at this page, if you find a good search string and you want to save it to the project, which is what we were talking about, you'll want to click this ribbon. It'll bring up this box, and here you can name this search. I will usually name it something close to the parameters I used. So I will usually do something like this, analyst and SQL, or SSRS within 25 miles of 23219. So that way, it's pretty obvious what that search is. The person behind you can see what that looks like. It just gives it a name. Try to be unique with your names so that you don't get confused, or it's not confusing later on. And then you can save it to the project. So I'm going to look for the sample project, click that. Typically, I will uncheck this because it tends to flood your inbox, but that's up to you if you want to get alerts. And then I'll hit save. So now I have successfully added that search to the project. So that's really how you save a search. Um, so that is saving a search. I want to walk through how do I get candidates into a project. So I'm going to show you, I utilize this tool up here called the clipboard. It allows you to quickly store 50 profiles maximum in there for further review or for further action. So I'm going to just add the first 25 people from here to the clipboard. To do that, I'll click this box which selects all the profiles on the page. Then this box here, it says add to clipboard. I'll click that. They should be in there. To find out, you can look up at your clipboard and it will have the red icon demonstrating that you have 25 profiles in your clipboard. So we're going to go in there now. Now this is where your prerogative comes in. So I typically like to open profiles before I add them to the clipboard in their own tab. That's just how I'm comfortable working. You can also uh, review them one by just clicking the first one. And here you see it says 1 of 25. So that's 1 of 25 profiles in the clipboard. If you go through and decide they're not worth your time, or they're not qualified, or something weird about their profile shows up, you can click remove from clipboard. Then they are taken off. To get to the next profile, you will just click this button. I'll typically open them all at once from the search page. So here's how I would do it. Um, I'm going to go back to recruit the home page. And actually, I want to show you guys the search history button. So I'm going to click there. And then you can see the query that I put in 2 minutes ago. I'll click it. It will come up with 5,000 results. So I will typically open the profile in a new tab. That leads to me having like 50 tabs open at a time, which is not great. But I don't like to add them to the clipboard and then review them and then forget my search string or if the history doesn't pick up my search string, sometimes it will just say empty query, which doesn't help anyone. I don't know why it does that. So that's why I like to open them all independently and add them and remove them from the clipboard like so. So that's kind of what I do. That's my process. But going back to the clipboard, um, from here, if you like all of the candidates that are in the clipboard, keep in mind the clipboard only holds 50 profiles. Each page is 25 profiles. So if you want to add all of them to a project, you would click that button. If you have multiple pages, that only selects the first 25. And you'll see that once we go through here. But to do that, or to now add them to a project, you can do that by clicking this folder icon, Save to Project. Here you'll enter the project name, sample project pops right up. And this is where you get into the status category. New, contacted, replied, future prospect screened, so on and so on. Typically, once I add people to a project, I send them a message almost at the same time. So everyone that I add to a project will typically be contacted. And we can look at that in the project later on. One thing I did want to cover, and this will be another bookmark, so we'll cover it as well. But this is how to create a message template, which is useful for bulk contacting candidates after you put them in a project while they're still in the clipboard. So to get to that, we'll want to click our inbox. We'll want to click the gear icon there in Mail Templates. This allows you to create a template based on your desired message. Try to keep it relatively short, relatively to the point. I'm going to click Show My Templates Only. That's typically what I do. I don't like to share templates with the team just because it gets confusing. You can certainly share individual templates if team members are curious what you've used in the past that's worked. But to create a template, I just did that, but I'll do it again. To create one, you want to go to the plus template button. Here you can name your template. I usually name it by the position title. For the subject, I will put in something simple that keeps the candidate from disqualifying it based on job title. So I'll usually do like data slash analysis slash SQL opportunity. For the salutation, there's a bunch there. I typically use the first name or high first name. That's generated by LinkedIn. It pulls from their profile. And then you can enter your message. You'll want to keep it relatively brief. Really try not to put in bullet points from the job description. I know that's tempting, but really the easiest thing to do is to lead with the stuff that's important about Virginia Premier. I used to be told that was called leading with the sexy. So I'll say, I'll introduce myself first. I'll say, my name is Michael, and my job title. Um, and then I'll typically lead with something interesting about Virginia Premier. I usually say something along the lines of we're a growing uh, healthcare organization looking to become an industry leader in the managed care space. We're growing rapidly, and we are looking for candidates with the background of the candidate you're targeting. So we'll do that for the purposes of our sample search. Um, Typically, I'll say something like, if you are interested in learning more about this opportunity to use your SQL expertise, I'd love to chat with you. Let me know. Let me know or reply to this message with one or two good times to chat today or tomorrow, and we can touch base. That's really it. Um, I really try to not get into too much detail. Candidates tune out long messages. They also tune out messages that aren't relevant to their profile. So you have to be careful. Make sure you're contacting candidates that um, are relevant to the profile you're seeking. They have that experience. Sometimes I'll send them over to our website just by saying, in the meantime, if you'd like to learn more, here is our website, and then I'll give them a link. That's really all there is to it. So that's pretty much how you create a template. That's what I would do. That's how I keep it simple. I typically don't attach a job description or anything in the first contact. Really, it's just trying to get them to say, "Hey, I'm interested," or "I'm looking," and then, "Hey, let's chat. Here's a good time," and I'll put it on my calendar, and we'll go from there. Um, so that is kind of the way you would create a template to send the template to candidates that are in your clipboard. You want to select them all again from the clipboard, and then Okay, see, I didn't scroll over far enough. You want to select them all from the clipboard and then click the message icon. That will bring up this box. This little document looking thing is your template screen. You want to bring that up, and then you can choose the template that you're looking for or search for a template. Typically newly created templates you'll have to search for, but once you use them, you can pop that in and hit send. I'm not going to do it right now because I don't want to contact these candidates quite yet. So if you hit that and it says, "Do you want to discard this message?" Just be aware you haven't sent your message yet, so it's not going to save it in the box. So I'm going to hit yes, discard. And then once you've sent candidates a message and added them to a project, you want to remove them from your clipboard using the clipboard with an X button. So I'll just do that. And it should tell me I have successfully removed 24 profiles from my clipboard. So that's really all there is to it. Um, so I don't remember, did we add people to the project? We did. So as you can see here, it lists all the people in the project. There's 24. 24 I've contacted. Once they reply, they should flip over to replied. If not, I'll show you guys how to do that. But that's pretty much how you add candidates to a project. So to check out kind of what their status is, if they reply, that's done. Usually, is the easiest way to do it is from the inbox. So for this guy, he was a candidate I was sourcing for business analysts. He has replied to my message, so his status has flipped over to replied. If they reply with a decline and they say they're not interested, you want to click the pencil to update their status, and you can change it to declined. At that point, I would typically add a note using this button here that says declined data analyst position for 2018. That way, if someone comes behind me, um, they would know, hey, that guy declined the message for this pretty similar role 2 months ago. I'm not going to reach out to him. I try my best to add the notes to all candidates. Sometimes you slip up and you forget. It's not a huge deal. It's mainly for paper trail purposes to help us be most efficient. So that's kind of a pretty general wrap up of how I do things here on LinkedIn Recruiter. One thing I wanted to demonstrate before I closed up shop is how do I view my statistics. So to do that, you'll want to go to reports, and then it brings up several different options: recruiter usage, performance summary, pipeline analytics, job analytics, in-mail analytics. Um, I'll show you what recruiter usage looks like. You can see how many people have logged um, in the last 7 days, I believe is the reporting period for this one. How many searches they've done, how many profiles they've viewed, how many emails they have sent. Um, so this is just helpful, if you want to check it out, see who's doing what. You can also view your statistics that way. Typically, I do that by looking at my in-mail analytics. It will show your response rate is the big one. So over the course of the most recent reporting period, which was the 2 weeks from 3/21 to 4/4, my response rate was 30%. That's pretty decent. Recruiters at similar sized companies, it says, average a response rate of 33%. Really, truly, and honestly, do not feel bad if you're a little bit lower than that. Typically, anything over 20 is great. Really, anything over 15 is fine. Um, you'll do want to note if you fall below, I believe it's 13%, you will get a warning, and I talk about that in the presentation, the PowerPoint presentation as well. So just keep your eye out there. Um, but you can kind of see, when did you have success, how many people have declined. It gets pretty granular and pretty interesting in my opinion. Um, you can see, template usage, what the response rate for the different templates are. That will kind of help you go back and say, hey, that template wasn't so great. Um, Maybe I need to change some things or it's not working well. and you can you can change the reporting period by clicking there. So I can look over the last 30 days, which is pretty much most of the time that I've been here, which my response rate's 29%. So I'm pretty happy with that. It's really variable based on the types of candidates you're recruiting. So just keep an eye out on that LinkedIn message with the response rate below 13%. But other than that, that is pretty much a really quick, brief overview of LinkedIn Recruiter. If you have any questions at any time, feel free to reach out to me and ask me. I think we've covered everything that I wanted to cover right away. So if you need any additional assistance, feel free to let me know. Thanks for watching.